You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Welcome to another episode of the NRL Allstars podcast. Barnesy here, your host of the Allstars podcast, here for TLT SuperCoach Round 6 final thoughts. I mentioned on social media, but for those that missed it, I was on the official NRL show yesterday, rostered on to do that one. So me and Wilson had a big chat about TLT, so you can go and check that one out. But on those weeks, like I've said before, I will just do a short episode for the All-Stars podcast because I can't fit in a full one on the Tuesday. So this is it. This is just to touch on a few things. I will say, just with a couple of the comments and stuff on the official show, that sometimes there's not enough time to get to all the players and things. It's also great because it means I've got some things to talk about on the All-Stars show as well. But the first thing I'm going to touch on is a bit of strategy talk. Now, those that did tune in would have seen that there was, some players that I wasn't that keen on. Certainly, guys like Cooper Clarke is a good example. I said, look, there's a lot of risk with it. He's got another edge there in Blore that could come onto that edge very quickly or this week. But it's a good time to talk about strategy because, look, when I'm answering questions on the official show or even on this show sometimes, it's very much a, basic line, broad line to cover most teams and most instances. There's always going to be times when specific team scenarios mean that maybe it's a better move than for other teams. So Cooper Clarke's a great example, so I'm going to use him for an example. On face value, there's a lot of risk there. He's not been scoring well. You could easily leave him and not be going a Cooper Clarke and steer clear is the basic probably advice that a lot of people would get. If your team needs a front rower, downgrade to get in another gun player that's a must-have that you got to get in, then it's certainly fine just to go, you know what? I'm going to take the risk with the Cooper Clarke and see how it goes. There is still always positives, and even though I'm not going to say Cooper Clarke's one of the best cheapies that you could get in as our example, he still does have that 80-plus score last week, and that will stick around for a couple of weeks in his scoring. So he should still be able to get 2 or 3 price rises, even if his impact or minutes actually peter out a little bit. So there is some upside there. And he's a great player too. I really like him as a young guy. That's just one example, guys and girls. I mean, the premise of it is, though, one shoe does not fit all. So certainly the answers a lot of the time are broad or generic for most teams. You can always take an exception. And the final thing I'll say is you can always take a risk as well. Another good example is I said, look, it's too scary to sell Hines. A lot of people are doing it. And certainly the safe move is to not sell him. But I also said fortune favours the brave. If you ranked 80,000 and you really want to chase hard, then making those type of calls at a high risk, high reward, they can pay off. I'm going to talk about Sam Walker a bit later on in the show. And, he's one where if you want to go, you know what, I think Sam Walker will outscore Nicho Hines for the next 4 weeks, then that move, could become a good one if it works. It's just very risky because if it doesn't work, you're behind the pack a lot. Doesn't mean that you can't do it. So I just want to get that real clear as a bit of a strategy talk. But I'm going to go through the games and just a few of the games with things that we missed in the official show or that I didn't get to really talk about that I can kind of elaborate on now. The first game that we're going to touch on is Manly Cowboys. There is a great buy that I did not mention that is a really good pod buy at the moment. Like we mentioned Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs, for example, as a really good second-row forward option. And he is. I still really like him this week. But a guy that's lesser owned and not being talked about is Olakau'atu. Now, he came off a 128-point game in round 5 and was quite popular as a bit of a pod purchase. Then he threw up a 55 against a weak Dragons side. And I think the gloss kind of came off. One of the important things to remember with his numbers is that is really him. Like he has games where you expect him to go big and he just doesn't. And it's disappointing, but he will come up with another big one. And one of the keys is at 695,000, similar price to someone like Preston. He's not that hard to get to from a Fafita. He's a bit cheaper, 50k cheaper than say a Hudson Young. And he's running for a couple of weeks here against some quite weak edges. He's got the Cowboys edge this week on Thursday night, and then he's also got the Parramatta edge the following week, which will be at 4 points. Now, I'd be very surprised if one of those two games he doesn't score a try at least. And on a 76 average at the moment for the season, a really good PPM. In fact, it's a career best PPM at the moment. He's kind of gone under the radar. He's actually had a pretty good start to the year. After that, they've got Penrith in their third game if you bought him this week. But then it's important to look at the rest because take that Penrith game out. Broncos at 4 points. Now, Broncos have had weak edges forever, even when they've been quite successful. And when they won the grand final last year, you could target Broncos edges and get tries for second rowers. So you could say 3 out of the next 4 are actually really good games. Away versus Tigers, who are by no means easy beats. But then if Olakau'atu does not play in State of Origin, he has a round 12 big buy round at home at 4 Pines versus the Gold Coast Titans. That is a delicious matchup for him running on that edge. So Olakau'atu is actually a really under the radar buy for the second row forward. While Preston's getting all the accolades for this week as a great purchase, sub 10% Hamoli Olakau'atu. He looks pretty good to me, and we didn't get to mention him in the official show. Dolphins game. Dolphins Penrith. There is another second rower here that could be a budget option for teams, and again is a bit under the radar at the moment. Obviously owned by hardly anyone because he's only just taken the job of Liam Martin. Now Liam Martin is out 6 to 8 weeks at the moment. That's quite a big time frame. It's plenty of time for someone to do well. And Garner is named to start in the second row. Now the great thing about Garner is that we've just got so much info of him in the past of doing really well when he gets an opportunity. He's only 435,000. So this is a different type of second row purchase. If you want David Fafita or Chan to downgrade, but still get potentially really good points out of it and be able to start that player, Garner is going to be your man. He finished last season between round 19 and 27 on that run home, final third of the season, as a starting edge back rower that was playing 80 minutes a game, and he averaged 69 points per game between round 19 and 27, doing that exact role that he's in now. You look at the draw, Dolphins giving up a huge amount of points at the moment. Newcastle not doing that well at the moment either. And then he's at home versus the Manly Sea Eagles, away versus the Raiders, and at home versus the St. George Illawarra Dragons. That draw is also why teams needed to probably clamour to get Nathan Cleary in by this point. I did say, if you wanted to fade him for a week or two here, you could. But this draw is a good Penrith Panthers draw. Now, Luke Garner does like scoring some tries. 2 weeks ago, he scored a try in only 50 minutes and ended up with a 72-point game. So he can ton up. I really like Garner as a cheap option, and nobody's looking at him as a bit of a downgrade from someone like Fafita or Chan to free up some cash, but also be a really good play for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And Martin's had quite a few issues. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a full 8 weeks, and that's a really valuable couple of months. Does not play the round 12 or round 15 big buy, which is a bummer, but their draw right now for Penrith is really good. So love that one as an option. Dragon Souths, likewise, we didn't really get to talk about if Fafita's out, who's going to come in there. Hubner's come in, he's around 400k just about. I don't see him as an option, especially when you got someone like Garner for 35, 40k more. But on the opposite side, someone who's been starting again after being benched early in the year, who's sub 600,000 at 594,000 with a break even in the single digits of 7, Tallis Duncan. Tallis Duncan has gone 87 and 101 the last 2 weeks. He now plays the Dragons this week at a core stadium at home for the Rabbitohs. Bit of a tough one the following week with Melbourne at Amy Park, but then they've got the Knights, Sharkies, Dolphins, and the Cowboys in the big buy round 12 round, which is really critical. So that's big X factor cover for that round as well. And I do feel like because everybody will be jumping on like Jacob Preston and some of these other guys, that he's going to remain pretty low owned. And Tallis Duncan has already shown last year how good he can be at scoring points. Interesting to note, the 87 and 101 the last 2 weeks, only one try in that. He did have like the try assists and everything going, but he's going to find some attack, and potentially this week against the Dragons is a really good week to have him. I actually love second row forward at the moment. It is ridiculous how many good second row forward options there are this round. The other game that I wanted to touch on was the Roosters Knights. Definitely didn't get to talk enough about that. I mentioned on the official show that obviously I'm a Roosters fan. If everyone wants to hassle me about, saying the Roosters will go well this week, you can. It's fine. I can take it. But look, they're playing the Knights at Allianz. I just think that it's load up time on the Roosters. And Nawangania Tawaze, didn't get to talk about him. He is probably my favourite pod buy this week. He's coming off an 81 and 108 the last 2 weeks. And he's only scored 3 tries in his 5 games as well, which isn't big for him. He's only actually scored in 2 out of those 5 games as well. So the tries are probably going to be coming. And I've spoken about this before. I mentioned it briefly on the official show yesterday, but I haven't got to hammer home how much I targeted this point of the season for Roosters players. I didn't love the start of the year for the Roosters, but this period now is a period that I wanted to have Roosters for. They've got next 3 games, all at Allianz Stadium, 3 games in a row. And they have Newcastle this week, Dragons the following week, Broncos at Allianz the next week, Titans in Magic Round, Cowboys back home again as well. And then they miss round 12. This next 5 weeks couldn't be any better for the Roosters. Matchup wise, you can go through the history of the scores and everything if you want to take some time to do that. There's all of these teams that they're playing. There's a heap of them where you can find 3 out of those 5 for just about every Gun Roosters player. They've actually excelled in historically in scoring bulk points. Now, we don't have a lot of data on Nawangania Tawaze against those sides, but at 690,000, he is a premium option, but he is one that people could get to. A Dale Trafita to him via another guy. I don't love selling Eero. I just think that he's coming good at the moment, but he's on the buy this week. If you can go to Eero to Nawangania Tawaze, it's a great run for the Roosters, and I really think that the mark's going to average 80 plus over the next 5 weeks. So I really like him. I did touch on Sammy Walker, but not really talk about him much. Look, he is a massive smoky to be possibly, top thing that could happen if you got him in. Maybe could be the top scoring halfback over the next 5 weeks. Now, it's unlikely, but he's certainly going to give you huge value for the scoring as well. And he's got the ability. The Anzac Day before last, so 2 years ago, he threw up 172 points against the Dragons in that Anzac Day game. Massive, massive upside. Obviously has the Knights this week at home, goal kicking, and then he's got the Dragons, Broncos, and the rest of the draw that I already said, so I don't need to repeat it, I guess. But he's only averaging 54 so far in the season. That's good. You know why? Because he's not going to finish the season averaging 54. The numbers say that's going to pick up to what he's been doing the last few years, which is between a 60 and 70 plus average. To do that, he's going to have to go on a tear. This is the time he's going to go on a tear. The other reason why it's good is because he's only 541,000. It is quite easy to get from an Ethan Sanders to a Sam Walker. The problem here is that you're going to likely bypass having a Nico Hines or a Cleary for him, unless you use one of your flex spots. Now, if you don't own Hines yet, you are in a phenomenal position because you now have the ability to put Sam Walker with Cleary this week and target Hines next week. And targeting Hines next week is something that I said over and over again before round 6. When we finished round 5, Hines was hugely popular, coming off 140 points. Just wait because you can get Hines in 2 weeks. He's going to miss one of those 2 weeks. So, just wait. Only scored the 50 points against the Roosters, now has the bye. Not trying to say that I'm right about everything, but geez, that one's really come off for Barnesy. So I'm gonna at least give myself some credit for that. But it does mean that you have the ability to trade one of your fullbacks. If you've got 3 fullbacks in flex, you can use them this week and then maybe trade whoever you wanted to trade in the next couple of weeks out next week and get one of the halves in and run 3 halfbacks between your flex and your 2 halfback spots. I really think with Sam Walker's draw, that's an option, particularly when you pair it with the Hines draw and the Cleary draw, which are both pretty good as well. Other guys in this side too that are quite cheap. Look, people jumped off Angus pretty quickly. If you've never owned him, it's an easy option. But even if he jumped off it early, he's still not scored below 53 points. He's still averaging 56, and he's still not obviously peaked with his scoring, having any big games or anything like that. I love this draw for him. He's obviously got some good edge matchups. He's only 556,000, and that price is really important because if you don't have the money to get to a Jacob Preston or Ola Kawatu or Fini Fuiaki, these premium options in the second row, Hudson Young, Angus Crichton is the cheap one. He's a straight swap at David Fifita's price point just about for him. And I reckon that's a good move. If you don't want to do it, okay. I'm just going to say to teams that in these matchups, we talked about Sam Walker's Anzac Day clash. Well, Angus Crichton's got an Anzac Day clash where he scored 119 against the Dragons in the last couple of years as well. So he does have that upside, and he does have that draw as well. Second best score ever, 151 points. Third best score ever, 151 points, was actually against the Broncos at home. He plays them in 3 weeks at home as well. Loves the Broncos edges. The other guy, though, on the other side is actually Wong, who's a bit under the radar. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I said to people that were asking me about Siwa Wong, look, I like him. He's a good player. 80 minutes is the issue. It's just a risk. And particularly when Bradley comes back, does he take edge minutes? Do they put Nat Butcher on an edge to give him some minutes there? It was just really hard to tell. I'm still not sure. And look, the thing with Wong is he still hasn't played a full 80 minutes yet. Granted, on the weekend. So if he continues in that 80-minute role, which he might, he looks really good, mainly because his base is so high. 55 raw base for a starting edge is elite. Normally they're in the 40s, even for the good ones. And when you have a look at the last 2 weeks, his base has been 61 and 63. Now, that's not his base power. That's 62 points a game the last 2 games, just in raw base, just in his tackles and runs. And a lot of it's in his tackles. He has massive, massive tackle rates. So to get that sort of floor on him at 570,000 is really quite valuable. He doesn't get a lot of attack, but he will find it if he sticks to that edge, and he does have that good draw. So he's that really good floor guy if you want to get him in for a David Fifita as a pod option. And because he's got that really good floor, like you look at the last 2 weeks when he's had those big base games, 69 and 77 points those last 2 weeks. You can imagine if he goes over for a try, it's an automatic ton. And that's a great thing with guys like him with a big work rate. Goes over for a try and an edge, it's an automatic ton that he's looking at just about. So 570,000 is value. He does come with the risk of roll, though, and that's probably the only little caveat with him. I have to, just before we sign off, mention Daniel Tupou. He's still there too, everyone. Welcome to get him in because he's coming off an 80-pluser, 0.9% ownership. And I'll finish off by saying what I said on the official show. Every rooster in the 17 is under 10% owned at the moment. So, like, this is the time. I'm telling you, this is the Roosters' time. In a few weeks, the run will start to finish. They won't be as good at buys. So you've really got to target these type of guys at the right time. And I think the time is now. I do want to mention the great partner and sponsor of the All-Stars podcast in One World Courier as well. You can go to oneworldcourier.com.au today and start a free account there. And if you or the business that you work for has any freight, shipping needs, they are the people to look at. Basically compare the market website that does it all for you. So if you go there and put in where you want to ship to, what you want to ship, whether it's pallets or envelopes or whatever, they'll tell you exactly how much it's going to cost and all the carriers that can do it for you. You choose a carrier and then away you go. One World Courier will pick up and deliver for you through that carrier and organise it all. It's a great service. They're a great partner of the All-Stars podcast. Make sure if you do sign up for a free account, though, when it says, where did you hear about us? You put NRL All-Stars podcast. I'll take great care of you, I promise you. So go and check out One World Courier today. For this podcast, please, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, hit subscribe and like as well on social media. You can follow us on X as well as Instagram and Facebook. I've tried to do a real quick fire episode, tried to cover off the main points I wanted to. If you've got any questions, feel free to fire them. I always try and answer everybody. But I will be back with a full episode next week. So a full, probably hour-long episode with a guest on next week, which I can't wait for. But until then, good luck with round 7. Good luck with all your decisions. Can't wait to talk more footy with everybody again real soon.
You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold.